Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to go over a little bit today about a subject that I think a lot of us can relate to, and that is traveling while on a GLP-1. So as you know, when you're on a GLP-1, it lends itself toward a certain diet, one that's a bit cleaner, one that's not filled with fried foods. It's usually on the healthier side. So when we travel, that can become a little bit more difficult. One of the ways that I've found to cope with this, which I would assume that you're in a similar boat, is I've found foods that are easy, that are quick, that I like to eat. And I tend to eat a lot of them so that I don't really think too much about what I'm making, what I'm doing. It's set more on a cruise control. So I know kind of what I'm having for lunch every week. I kind of have an idea what I'm having for dinner every week. And it starts to become easy, and I have a rotation, and I am much more likely to hit the intake that I'm looking to hit, be that calories, be that protein, be that carbs, whatever the case. I'm much more likely to hit those metrics when I'm at home and I'm working off of my known, easy, adapted rotation of foods. And when you travel, that becomes much more difficult, mainly because that set of foods disappears for you. You don't have access to the exact same things that you normally have access to. And so when you're searching out things to eat, sometimes you have control over those things, sometimes you don't have control over those things. And that's kind of what I experienced this week. And so I just wanted to have a little conversation about it, put some color around it, and talk through it with you guys. So on my side, we pulled back on travel just a little bit. So I've been home since March. So March, April, May, June, and July. And so now we've got some things that we just have to take care of. And so my travel schedule is starting up again. So I'm going to be coming up against this quite a bit. So for me, preparing for the trip, I was actually quite confident going into this trip. I had to go up for meetings. This was business. Most of my travel is for business, and I do quite a lot of it. And I thought I had it down. I thought I had a good plan in place, but not everything works out quite to plan. And that's okay. I learned from all of my experiences. But on this one, I was pretty confident. I was going up on Tuesday and I was coming back on Thursday. It was going to be a short trip. And I wasn't too concerned about it because I thought 2 of the days, the day going up and the day coming back, I had much more control over than the Wednesday in the middle, which it did kind of end up working out that way. Monday night, I packed up protein shakes, the protein hydration powders that I used, and then I packed up some protein bars to help just to have for supplement while I was there. Now, this is not that much different from a normal day. I do lean on those during a normal day, though I am trying to back away from those. A further complication that I had is that I've been feeling sluggish and had low energy as we've approached last week. And so I've made some other changes where I've adopted a macro app so that I can, basically a food tracking app, but it's focused on macros. And it's intended to help me track what I'm consuming without going over my calorie budget, right? So my calorie budget has been 1,500 now I've been trying to get 100 grams of protein on a daily basis. And that in itself has been going pretty well. 1,500 to 2,000. I'm usually 1,700 calories or something like that. And then I've been hitting the 100 to 120 grams per day on the protein, right? And I haven't been paying attention to carbs because I don't shy away from carbs. I eat carbs. My assumption has been that I'm getting enough carbs for whatever I needed. Now, when I started feeling the sluggishness, that's when I started to say, okay, maybe I'm not getting the carbs that I need. So let's start tracking it and let's see where I'm ending up. I do have a philosophy that what doesn't get tracked doesn't get fixed. So that is typically one of my first go-tos in order to fix something, is simply start tracking it and let's see if what we think is going on is what's actually going on. And I found out pretty quickly that I'm not getting enough carbs. So I've tried to increase my carb intake. Now, part of that app, it is telling me that I need 2,000 calories a day, but then I also need almost 200 grams of protein in a day, and I need like 150 grams of carbohydrates in a day in order to hit my workout goals, muscle building, weight loss, whatnot. Okay. Now, I didn't realize how difficult it would be to zero in into that range. Not only did I have first travel coming up that was going to be challenging in the first place, but I also had this other adaptation that I needed to make in order to increase it. Now, I will say that the increase in carbohydrates and the increase in protein, I do feel much more energetic and I do feel stronger at the gym. And I do think that it's the right answer. But right now, I'm trying to zero in on that sweet spot to find out, is it 2,000 calories? Is it 1,800 calories? Is it 2,200 calories? Is it 200 grams of protein, or is it maybe 170 grams of protein, right? And I think your body tells you that, and we'll find it, but it's going to take a little bit of time. In any event, moving into this trip, I packed some supplements for it to go into to take with me while I was on the trip, right? And so I headed up there and I felt very confident about being able to accomplish what I was trying to accomplish. I'd packed protein shakes, protein bars, and I made sure I got a workout in on Sunday and I got a workout in on Monday before. And that was a 3-day workout. There was some challenge there, but I got it in and I felt good about it. And I'm glad that I did it. The other challenge that you have when you travel is that it's really difficult to find time to work out, right? It's really hard. You're waking up early. You're staying up late. You're in meetings typically from the 8 to 5 range that goes on. And then you have social activities that you have to attend from 5 to 10 o'clock at night or something like that. That's why you leave to go to the meetings, is so that you get pulled away and your time is committed to the day. It does become difficult to work out while you're traveling. So I made sure that I got 2 days in before, and then I planned to get 2 days in after. And then I wasn't going to work out while I was there. I believed that it would be manageable, and my confidence was high. So the first hard hit came on the first night when I was 100 grams short on my protein before going into dinner. I had already met my carb goal. I had met my fat goal. And I had met my calorie content. But I was 100 grams short on my protein goal. And that's not good when you're on a GLP-1, when you're trying your best not to lose any muscle. And I'm trying to build muscle, not just not lose it. I'm trying to build muscle. So it was critical in my mind. It was critical for me to figure out a way to get as many grams of protein as I could for the day. I knew I wasn't going to hit my 200 gram per day goal at that point. I didn't have the room in my stomach. I didn't have the food available to me coming up. And so, I was disappointed. I was real disappointed. And that's where the first crack in my confidence started to show. We ended up at an Italian food restaurant of all places. So a lot of carb options, but they did have a special for a ribeye. So I went and I opted for the ribeye just because it's a big slab of meat, and I tried to pass on some of the other items that were available that night. So this was the realization for me that, okay, this isn't going to be easy. So I made some adjustments and I said, okay, I'll try and watch out tomorrow. My protein ended up low at the end of the day. So my adjustment was to try and attack it at breakfast the next morning, right? That's my next option to try and take care of it. So let's just talk a little bit about the reality of business travel. There's buffet breakfasts that are huge. There's mid-morning snacks that are typically filled with all kinds of carbohydrates, sugary ones too, not quinoa or wild rice or something like that. It's donuts and glazed croissants and stuff that none of us need to be eating. The lunches are typically oversized, huge sandwiches, chips, an alternate type of side, a cookie, sodas, and soft drinks. It's just too much, quite frankly. And then your mid-afternoon snack is typically more of what your morning snack looks like. It's just geared toward the afternoon. Pretzels with cheese and corn dogs and little mini corn dogs and these types of things. And then when you are done with the meetings, you're wrapping up the meetings at 5, pretty much everybody heads to the bar until you head out to dinner, which is like 6:30 or 7, something like that. And so you go to the bar and you're socializing with your colleagues and business associates, and then you head out to dinner, and dinner is going to be a nice place. First off, you'll walk in to the bar and have another drink while you're waiting to be seated. And then you'll have 3 appetizers, you'll have a main, you'll have family style sides, you'll have desserts, you'll have aperitifs, and throughout the whole dinner, wines being served. And then on top of all that, you have the absent-minded, nibbling in between conversations at dinner. If you're being social at dinner, you're talking and grabbing things off of plates and eating, and that's why the appetizers are there. You can forgetfully put on 500 calories just sitting there chit-chatting with somebody. And so that type of environment is, for me, it's what got me into this situation. It's the reason why I put on 100 pounds. And so it's going to be a challenge for me as I go through these to try and manage them. And that's where the difficulty comes from. So we do have some counter strategies, right? There are some opportunities inside of these challenges. And one of those that I implemented this week is, I didn't drink any alcohol. Now, the beautiful thing about these GLP-1 shots for me, like I've said before, I was a daily drinker. And you can hear my description of what my conferences and meetings and all of these things are like. And so you can understand why I'm a daily drinker. It's a social part of my job, is to drink at the bar and have these conversations and come to these agreements and talk. So on this particular trip, I opted to pass on all the alcohol. And I'm glad I did, because if I hadn't, I would have absolutely blown my calorie budget out of the water. It would have been ugly. At a minimum, that stayed under control, right? I may not have hit necessarily all my other metrics, but at least that stayed there. The other part of that too is that I find that when I do drink alcohol, my progress slows down dramatically. And that's really been the driver for me. I don't really want to slow down my progress. I'm motivated and happy that I'm losing what I'm losing at the rate that I'm losing it and in the way that I'm losing it. And I don't want to do the things that'll screw that up, and which is a particularly nice motivation to have right now. The other thing that we have to recognize about these GLP-1 shots is that for me, I was a daily drinker, and they take that desire away completely. I have absolutely no desire to drink. And that's one of the things that surprised me. It didn't just fade away. It disappeared with a snap of a finger. A complete and total change from day one. I no longer have any desire to drink. We do have counter strategies that we can implement. The first part is portion control. On the second day that I was there, I hadn't made my protein goal for the previous day. And I decided, okay, well, I'm going to focus my breakfast toward this protein goal, and I'm going to try and get ahead of it, right? And I stayed back on the carbohydrates in order to keep the calorie content down, right? So I sacrificed the carbs to hit the calorie goal. So some of the countermeasures that we do have available to us are portion control. So for breakfast, I looked to my portions and I focused on protein and calories for breakfast, which means that I sacrificed a little bit on the carbohydrates. We can talk about that in a second. I skipped the morning snack and I skipped the afternoon snack, which that one's not particularly difficult for me because I skip them anyway. The afternoon snack, I didn't actually skip. I just did my usual bit where I drank one of my protein shakes and I ate a protein bar, and that ended up being my afternoon snack. And then for lunch, I just ate half of the sandwich. I didn't eat the whole sandwich. I ate half of the sandwich. I didn't eat the chips. I ate the alternate, which I think was like potato salad or something like that. I ate the alternate side, skipped out on the cookie, and drank water. And that's been an adjustment for me. Just because a certain amount of food has been given to you doesn't mean that you have to consume it all. Fortunately, I've had 3 or 4 months of those scenarios. So that was kind of a natural reaction for me, which was a nice benefit. And then for dinner, we focus on completing out our macros at the end of the day. So I still need a macro tracking app to help me gauge my progress throughout the day so that I can make those decisions at the different meals. For instance, the lunch, the sandwich. Technically, I could have taken the bread off if I felt like I was high on my carbs, but I wasn't. If you're tracking it, you can at least make those decisions on your own. Then obviously you can choose to skip the alcohol. Just because everybody else is drinking doesn't necessarily mean that you have to drink. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have to drink, right? Another option that I've entailed in other environments is I simply drink non-alcoholic beer. It's readily available, and most people pay no attention to that. I'll have a non-alcoholic beer. They're readily available. They taste pretty good. They are some extra calories, but typically they're somewhere between 50 and 100 calories there. So you just kind of sit and hold that and sip off of it during the night, and nobody notices, and there's generally no conversation surrounding it. Whereas if you're standing there without a drink in your hand, invariably somebody will ask something, say something, whatnot, not in a rude way, but in a polite way, like, can I get you one? Or I see you don't have anything. You want me to order you something? Or, that sort of thing. So generally ordering a non-alcoholic one just eliminates that part of the interaction. It's a nice solution, I find. I think if I whittled this down into just a couple of items, the main challenge that you run up against when you're traveling versus when you're at home, and what tends to derail things, is when you're traveling, you have limited options and you don't always have control over those options. Whereas when you're at home, you have your staple items and you have full control over what it is that you're going to eat. The choices that you make while you're traveling are what will make you successful or not. And that's where these counter strategies help. It's easier to hit your macros when you're at home than when you're traveling. It really highlights some of the cracks that you may have in your diet. So when we think about our approach to our diet whenever we're traveling, we can't control everything. We just can't. You rarely can. But we can control some things, and that's where we can find our successes. We can find it in portion control. We can find it in choosing to drink alcohol or not. We can find it in choosing whether to eat empty calories or not. Sometimes messy is good enough to get you there. And at the end of the day, that's really what you're looking for. That's really what we're all looking for, is simply to be effective. So the good news is we've identified where the challenges come from, and that's half of it. If you know what it is that you're going to encounter while you're on a trip, then at least you have a chance at being able to have a solution for it on the next go round. I wish I had a silver arrow that solved it for all of it, but unfortunately I don't. I do have a couple of counter strategies, and hopefully those will help. Watch your portion control. Understand you don't have to eat everything that's right there in front of you just because it was served to you. And there are certain things that you can just skip and politely disregard, or you can fake it. I look at the non-alcoholic beers as kind of faking it a little bit. But like I said earlier, it solves all the issues of the social side of drinking alcohol, right? But yeah, we're all learning here. And to that end, if any of y'all have any tips, tricks, things that you've figured out, I think it'd be great to share. Share it with me, share it with the community. Let's help each other out. Tell us what works for you. Tell me what I should be doing. Tell me how you would do it differently. Tell me what your thoughts are. Let me know if any of this helped. I'd love it if this helped one person. So if you liked what you saw or it helped in any way, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and comment down below on any tips or tricks that you have that help you hit your diet goals while traveling. And let's build a community around problem solving. Thanks for visiting. This is my Midlife Rewired.